Republican leader.
Last week, Senate Republican colleagues and I visited our allies and partners in Europe. We both reassured them of America's commitment to strengthen leadership, but also urged them to invest and engage more in security and the transatlantic alliance. Our allies are coming around to the realization that security assistance to Ukraine is not just helping one nation's citizens defend their sovereignty. It is also degrading Russia's ability to further threaten Europe or threaten America, and sending a powerful deterrent signal to other potential aggressors. From our perspective, much of the money that's being described as American aid to Ukraine is actually being invested in our own defense industrial base here at home. We're procuring new versions of munitions and weapons for our own military to replace often decades-old versions that we've sent over to Ukraine. And after an ill-advised holiday from history, European allies are now following America's lead. NATO members are making historic investments in defense that will keep paying dividends long after Ukraine defeats Putin's aggression. The West is priming the pump of the industrial capacity that will ensure we are prepared to meet the larger military challenges posed by systemic rivals like China. The recent press reports that Beijing is considering providing weapons to Russia should not come as a surprise. China has plenty of reasons to fear a Russian defeat and plenty of reasons to hope Russia gets away with forcibly seizing another country's territory. Yesterday, the Senate Armed Services Committee heard testimony from Keith Kellogg, a former advisor to President Trump and co-chair of the Center for American Security at the America First Policy Institute. Like the vast majority of Republican senators, he complained the Biden administration had been actually too slow in providing military assistance to Ukraine. He noted the best way to end the conflict was to, quote, enable Ukraine to defeat the Russian army in Ukraine. And what about the claim that the West supporting Ukraine is somehow distracting us from the threats posed by the PRC? Here's what Kellogg said. Make no mistake, weakness against Russian aggression is weakness against the communist Chinese threat. Russian victory in Ukraine today almost certainly means war for Taiwan tomorrow. Likewise, in Japan, senior officials are spelling out the clear link between the response to Putin and the prospects of deterring President Xi. They've taken historic steps to invest more in their own defense. And during our trip last week, Prime Minister Kishida announced that Japan plans to direct $5.5 billion in assistance toward Ukraine. Other reports indicate the citizens of Taiwan are volunteering to fight alongside Ukrainians against Russia. Let me say that again. Their reports indicate that citizens of Taiwan are volunteering to fight alongside Ukrainians against Russia. The very people most threatened by the ambitions of the PRC tomorrow understand the importance of Ukraine prevailing today. Our friends and partners in the Middle East know the score as well. They've had to contend with Russia as an influential force in the region ever since President Obama failed to enforce his red line in Syria, and Putin came rushing into that conflict. Now our partners see the same Iranian missiles and UAVs that have struck their own cities being used by Russia to attack Ukraine. They know Moscow will repay Tehran soon somehow, and that a victorious Russia will be less constrained in providing advanced capabilities to Iran. So we've seen senior Israeli officials showing up in Kyiv. We've seen Saudi Arabia vote against Russia in the United Nations, pledge $400 million in assistance to Ukraine, and send its first official delegation to Kyiv in 30 years. Clearly, America's friends all around the world know that the way we respond to today's threats will determine our readiness to face tomorrow's. They know in Europe, they know it in the Indo-Pacific, and they know it in the Middle East. And here at home, Republicans know that the safest America is a strong and engaged America. That's why we'll continue to push President Biden and his administration to move faster, to exert our leadership, invest in our own defense, equip our friends, and keep America safe. Now, on another matter, the quality of President Biden's judicial nominees has been in the headlines recently for all the wrong reasons. Recently, the White House celebrated their 100th judicial confirmation with a bizarre press release that spent less than one sentence talking about legal qualifications before devoting 5 paragraphs to the nominees' demographics. Then a newly published analysis pointed out that the nominees whom Democrats have been confirming have been significantly less likely to have clerked at the Supreme Court, clerked at a circuit court, or graduated law school with top academic honors compared to the judges that Republicans spent the previous 4 years confirming. Fewer prestigious clerkships, fewer academic honors. Not terribly surprising. It appears this qualifications gap may also be leading to a job performance gap. A law professor at the University of Iowa has found that the first 10 Biden-appointed appellate judges have written about 140 majority opinions between them, or an average of about 14 opinions each. By contrast, the first 12 appellate judges confirmed during the previous administration had written 415 majority opinions. That's 140 for the Biden nominees and 415 for the previous administration appointees, majority opinions by February 2019, or 34 each over a comparable period of time. 14 opinions each for the Biden first 10, 34 for the previous administration's first 10. It appears President Biden's Court of Appeals judges are publishing opinions less frequently than other recent judges. So tomorrow, our colleagues on the Judiciary Committee will meet for a markup to consider a slate of nominees, including the now infamous nominee from Washington State, who was actually unable to recall what Article 5 or Article 2 of the United States Constitution were about. This is not exactly the bar exam. This is basic constitutional literacy. And this person, on whom President Biden wants to bestow a lifetime appointment, flunked. Democrats are also trying to push forward the nomination of Michael Delaney, an attorney from New Hampshire, who threatened a teenage Jane Doe victim of sexual assault that he'd fight to strip away that anonymity and make her name a national story if she and her family did not settle their civil suit against the powerful prep school before it went to trial. Even some of our Democratic colleagues seem troubled by this. Senator Blumenthal says he has concerns about this nominee. Chairman Durbin admitted Delaney had, quote, a rough hearing, end quote. Senator Feinstein sent this nominee from her own party's White House a long list of detailed written questions. This is the caliber of judicial nominees this administration is sending to the Senate. Folks who couldn't pass a high school civics exam on the Constitution, and folks who threaten a high school girl when she demands accountability for being attacked. Oh, and by the way, this brave young lady is outraged that President Biden is trying to reward her legal tormentor with a lifetime appointment, and that our 2 Democratic colleagues from New Hampshire are actually backing this person. She just explained in a courageous op-ed for the Boston Globe how she received rape threats and death threats, how photos of her and her sisters were uploaded to hateful websites, how people took out inappropriate classified ads using her family's information, All because she dared to speak out and seek justice for what she had suffered. This young lady wrote, quote, "Biden's nomination, as well as this nominee's support from Senators Shaheen and Hassan of New Hampshire, show me and other survivors that they approve of what Delaney and the St. Paul's School put me and my family through. Michael Delaney's nomination must be withdrawn." That's from the victim. The American people deserve the best and brightest. It appears the Democrats are producing something else.